Last week, we exposed the boss of Naughty Dog, Neil Druckmann, for his delusions of grandeur and outright lies in regards to The Last of Us Season 2 and Part 2, how they're adapting that story and changing it because, well, sometimes reality doesn't quite reflect art the way that the Cuckman wants it to, so he has to concede on a couple of things that he would go out there and call gamers bigots and misogynists over in years gone by, but now because he got a big cushy contract and he's being able to slowly weasel his way into Hollywood, when Naughty Dog eventually does get closed down upon the release of their next and arguably final game, he'll be able to rest on his laurels that, hey, you know, at least The Last of Us Season 1 was somewhat well regarded. Its viewing figures were fine, and people generally appreciated it. Sure, shame about that Season 2, 3, and I think he has plans for 4. But again, like, this guy's a complete and total snake oil salesman, and that's about the nicest way that I can put it. And and I also made a passing mention to the fact that, yeah, The Last of Us Part 3, yeah, it's probably done, bro. Okay, for as much as there was so much more story to tell, and how interesting Abby was as a character, and how we could explore more cycles of violence, and how Abby now only has 2 fingers, so she really doesn't have to, you know, contort her hand to give her lesbian lover a shocker anymore. It's like, okay, bro, who gives a crap? But it was a game that sold so overwhelmingly spectacularly, you would think that Sony would be banging down the door in order to get a sequel to that. No, you're just gonna remaster, remake, or whatever the hell you're talking about, a game that is, what, just about 5 years old, and it's getting its 3rd facelift? Like, it's absolutely insane. Can't wait for those numbers to come out on Steam. Oh, it's gonna be abysmal. Early April. Also coincides with the release of Season 2, which it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how much they change or how much they stick to Part 2, which that's another kettle of fish. We'll talk about that later. I want to focus on the gaming side of things because you remember Naughty Dog, it used to be a gaming company, not just an avenue for a hack to write his fan fiction. But Naughty Dog, yes, seemingly shifting focus to Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, which, oh boy, I'm sure sometime this year we're likely to hear a little bit more about this abomination on the horizon with all of the product placements and unlikable female lead character that you can possibly handle. But we've heard a little bit about the scripting in the aftermath of the Game Awards when this was first teased, and well, I don't think the story is really going to blow anybody away, so it's going to rely on stellar gameplay in order to carry it. And Naughty Dog, it's been a long time since they've innovated on the gameplay front. Like, I mean, The Last of Us Part 1 was a pretty damn good story, but the gameplay was already out of date back in 2013, and they did very, very, very little, and the AI was definitely busting at the seams in Part 2, so why on God's green earth do we think that they could take on a different setting with the same type of uninspired lead actress? And I'm just, connecting dots here. For years, speculation has swirled around whether The Last of Us Part 3 would ever become a reality. Fans hoping for an official confirmation have been met with silence from Naughty Dog until now. In a recent interview with Variety, yes, Neil Druckmann, the creative director behind the franchise, made a statement that all but confirms that there are no current plans, for a 3rd installment. Well, thank God. While this doesn't necessarily mean that The Last of Us is done for good, can't it though? It raises serious questions about the series' long-term viability. Well, I would say for the studio's long-term viability, because, okay, cool, he's not working on The Last of Us, which we know is just about the only thing that Neil really cares about, and then Intergalactic, fantastic. I don't see that succeeding at all whatsoever, because this is something that's been in development since 2021, and it's very likely not to be able to be played on maybe not a PS5. It might be a launch title for the PS6. So all of those modern sensibilities in 2021 and 2022, how outdated are they going to look 5 years on? Okay. They were already trite back in the cut, but, even further into the future, it's going to look even more pathetic. But Druckmann's words were simple but telling. Don't bet on there being more Last of Us. That's what makes that title just so clunky. Anyways, as a vague yet firm response that suggests that not only is Part 3 not in development, but it may never happen at all. Oh, darn. Okay, but that means that what? Yeah, it's all hands on deck for Intergalactic, right? Because, hey, we can go ahead and listen to this chick's story about how she was betrayed by the only man in her life and how she's going to have to go and topple the intergalactic patriarchy. Can't wait for that one. Yay. But we've covered the plot leaks. There's a video on the channel That's a couple months old, and actually over the weekend I had one backlogged, and it also ties in with some other video game news that was going on at the time, and because we're about to come around to another cringy games release, I have that scheduled. I think it's for Sunday. I think it's first thing coming out on Sunday, so look forward to more Intergalactic news. I think we touch on more plot leaks then, and just also tie all of this stuff in with how Naughty Dog is a company that is just utterly rudderless, because now we have a more of an insight as to what we're going to be dealing with here, because a Naughty Dog game, ever since Neil Druckmann has taken over, is not so much about gameplay. It's all about the story that he wants to tell. And so, what's the story about Intergalactic? Well, apparently, Neil Druckmann implies Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophecy, will be an attempted takedown of Christianity. Yeah. Last time we heard about this, it was supposed to be exploring, or rather, analogizing Israel, and so it's like, oh my god, what a hack. Neil Druckmann, the co-president of Naughty Dog, recently shared new details about the upcoming Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, and implied that it would attempt to take down Christianity, while making it clear the game is about faith and religion. Which religions, Neil? Which religions? In an interview with Hollywood writer Alex Garland, Druckmann first shared that he's been working on the game for 4 years. He then stated it takes place 2,000 years in an alternate future that deviates in the late 80s. Oh, Jesus Christ, it sounds so hack. And we spent like years just coming up with that timeline and it's dealing with. I joke about this with the team. Oh, we made a game with The Last of Us 2. We made certain creative decisions that got us a lot of hate. A lot of people love it, but a lot of people hate that game. So we're just going to go ahead and double down on this stuff. He really wants to be the Rian Johnson of video games. Half the audience loves the projects and half of it hates it. That's what I aim for. You know, instead of just making something universally beloved, you might as well just go ahead and lower your expectations, shoot yourself in the foot, and then blame everybody else for the violence inflicted upon you. It seems a very, very commonplace and very much a second nature for certain people. So the joke is like, you know what makes something that people won't care as much about. Let's make a game about faith and religion. Oh my Christ. So yeah, you're going about this with quite a bit of spite. Fantastic. Druckmann continued to share, in this alternate history timeline, we've made this new religion that becomes pretty prominent. And then we spend years just building out this religion from the original prophet all the way out, how it gets changed and sometimes bastardized as it evolves over all these years. Druckmann then alludes to it being about Christianity. He does so when Garland asked him to confirm how far it takes place with the deviant timeline. And he said 2,000 years, coincidentally 2,000 years. Well, Garland laughs, Druckmann smiles, and affirms, coincidentally 2,000 years. And this whole religion takes place on a planet, and then at the point all communication stopped from this planet, and you're playing a bounty hunter that's chasing her bounty, and she crash lands on this planet. Yeah, it's very, very close to some of those leaks that we have heard before, and yeah, it's going to be as cringe as we anticipated. Druckmann then shared what his goals in the games are, or with the game are, rather. I really wanted to make a game about faith and religion, but also about just being lonely, okay? So many of the previous games we've done, there's always an ally with you and you're talking, and never stop talking. We really want you to be lost in this place, that you're really confused about what happens here, who the people are, what their history is. You're supposed to be going against, you're supposed to be finding in an old crew, actually, because you've been contacted to go find an old master who ended up being, separated from the rest of the crew on a planet, and it's like, whatever. And in order to get off this planet again, no one has heard from this planet for 600 years. How's that even possible with an intergalactic, interconnected universe like that? They haven't heard of anybody from that planet for 600 years. Nobody thought to just swing on by and see what's happening over there? No? All right. Druckmann would end this discussion saying, we still have a ways to go, but I'm kind of very excited to see it again. These things are so complex, sure, and big, and there's so many people involved, and there's I still don't know exactly what this thing is going to look like at the end. I have a theory, I have an idea, and it's still evolving and changing as we make it. Yeah, exactly. Well, if it is anything like your exploration on the cycles of violence, I bet this is just going to be as ham-fisted and stupid as The Last of Us Part 2. I don't really think that this one's going to end up taking off in quite the same way, but who knows, man? Maybe you get in good with those Warner Brothers people, and then by the time that this game comes out and you have an opportunity to adapt it,
maybe Warner Brothers will be the only other company beating Naughty Dog into bankruptcy. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.